Actually, I came from very far, though. Okay, just for this trip, from the 29th floor upstairs. Okay, but for those of you who are familiar with this building, you know what I mean, lah. Just to navigate the lift sometimes can take a long time. But how do I do this? Ah, okay, upside down. Okay, but can you hear me? Right. Okay. Actually, if you look at the slide, right, they have actually made me 10 years younger, lah, which I'm very happy because they say with over 2 decades of experience, actually it's 3 decades, lah. So because I've been in practice for more than 30 years now. Okay, so first, I would like to thank Chiwi for inviting me. Actually, I met him a long time ago, and I gave also talks under his old company. I didn't know he actually moved here until we had a very serendipitous coffee at Coffee Bean one morning. So you don't know who you'll meet, lah. Okay, but okay. So thanks for having me. Now next one. Okay, why is this relevant? And a bit of background, just to let you know, the topic of Muslim law now, right, has become a compulsory subject in the university. Not all yet, but in SUSS it's part of the degree, right? NUS, they run workshops and courses on this, but when they graduate from the local universities, it is now a compulsory subject at the Singapore bar. So now, any lawyer in the last 3 years would have to go through this course. Not just the inheritance, but they also learn a bit of the divorce, Muslim divorce. So it's whether or not you're Muslim or not, okay, every Singapore lawyer who's been called after 2022 actually must learn this subject. And the person who runs it is me lah. Okay. So okay. Just to because I happen to write the textbook also lah. So they asked me to read. Okay, this I like to have all these tools lah. We feel more secure. Okay. Now, so why is it relevant? And the best way I can do it is actually to show you, right, through a case law. Now, some of you may be senior enough to remember what happened in 1998. Don't worry, those who don't. Now, what happened in 1998 was this. There was this company that actually bought a house, a shop house in Dunlop Street. That's somewhere in Little India. Okay, it's about 3 or 4 stories. They bought the house, the shop house, and then they renovated it extensively, right? And then when they started business, they got a notice, right, from MUIS. MUIS is the Majlis Ugama Islam Singapura, translated the Islamic Religious Council of Singapore. There is such a body. It's a statutory board. And they were shocked because MUIS said that that property is a wakaf property. That means it was bequeathed for the Muslim community in perpetuity, forever and ever. Okay, it does not belong to the person who sold you the house. I think there are some more seats there. Okay, so what happened, right? So some background. Don't worry, I think all the slides will be made available to you, right? All the slides. So it's all there. So what happened was that it went before the High Court. And then the High Court was asked to look at Section 59 of AMLA, which stands for the Administration of Muslim Law Act, right? And it says all property situated in Singapore, any property in Singapore, right, will be subject to this. That means if it is proven to be a wakaf property, right, it cannot be sold. It belongs to the community. Okay? Wakaf is like a gift to God. That's the closest translation I can give. Okay? So it's a very long case. I'm trying to simplify it. So they went through all the documents, and the Court of Appeal, when they said no, when one of the parties said no, but we are Singapore, so that is a matter for Muslim law, should not concern us. That was one of the arguments used by the lawyer. But the Court of Appeal said it is actually part of the law of the land. Even if this is done by Muslims only, it affects everybody. So, okay, this is how the court ruled this. And the court said that the Justice Juris Prakash, she was correct in applying the Muslim law. So, dangerous, right? Civil law is really so complicated. Now you're asking a High Court judge to apply the Muslim law, and to her credit, she did. If you read the full judgment, she actually went through all the scholarly works and then to determine whether or not this was actually a wakaf property. Okay, and she held that it was. So it caused shockwaves because what happened? It means that it was not a good title. So the developer had actually bought a house which cannot be sold to them. So they lost the title, right? So imagine and this was in the 1990s, already a few $1 million then was a lot of money. Imagine what's the value today. So they lost millions and millions of dollars, but in the property market, it caused shockwaves because now everybody's worried. How do I know whether the house I want to buy is a wakaf or not? For those of you who, you may not be aware, but there are shops in Tanjong Katong, that red shop or something, that's a wakaf property. And in Bencoolen Street, there's some. And in fact, in Teluk Kurau, there's some condominium project which is actually wakaf property. But at that time in the 1990s, you wouldn't know, no? That's why they had to amend the AMLA and make it mandatory for every wakaf now to be registered. So at least now you can check. Okay, so now any conveyancing lawyer, right, has to be responsible and check whether or not it is a registered wakaf. Otherwise, there's no protection. So that's why I start off with this case. If you think, why is it necessary for me to know about Muslim law? Because it can impact you. It can impact anybody. Okay. Now, so having done that, that's the why we need to know a bit of Muslim law. How are they applied in Singapore? Can you all see me or not if I stand here? Okay, okay. So now, Intestate Succession Act, it means, intestate simply means where there's no will. That's all it means. Okay. Now, under the Intestate Succession Act, what it means is that there is a fixed formula. Okay, if a man passes away and he has one wife and some children, the wife takes 50% and the children take the other 50%. It's all there in the ISA. Okay, so no need to memorize, just open up, you can see all the scenarios. But it does not apply to Muslims. So Muslims, you go to the AMLA, but the only problem you have in the AMLA, there is no such equivalent who gets how much. It just says, later on you'll see, just apply Muslim law. And that's why it's confusing, right? Whereas Intestate Succession Act is so clear. Now the Wills Act also, it says it does not apply to Muslims, but with a big but. And the but is that the formalities apply to Muslims. So just now I heard Sylvia saying about there's a will writing course and this. Okay, that one is very important because that the formalities, the making of the will, it also applies when you make a Muslim will. Okay, the witnesses, etc., etc. Okay, it still applies. Probate and Administration Act is the when you want the grants, right? The grant of probate, the grant of LA, both whether Muslim or non-Muslim, you go to the Family Justice Court or the High Court to get your grant. Okay. This is actually later I'll go into the CPF Act. Legitimacy Act, this is where under the Legitimacy Act, right? If if a child was born outside wedlock, but when the parents marry, right? The parents marry, the child automatically becomes the beneficiary, right? The law legitimizes it, but it does not apply to Muslims. And that's dangerous because then the child who was born, let's say in the year 2010, but then the parents only got married in 2012, is technically not a beneficiary under Muslim law. Okay, so we need to know because then we need to make provisions, right? That's why you do wills. Okay, but under the civil, the child automatically is a beneficiary. Adoption Act. Now, Muslims also go to the Family Justice Court to legally adopt a child, to get the final order from the court and then a new birth cert. However, under civil law, when a child is legally adopted, the child automatically becomes a beneficiary, right? Same status like any other child, but not for the Muslim child. Okay? Because the Muslim law does not recognize the concept of adoption. They only recognize the concept of guardianship. So when a child is, even if the child is legally adopted, right, and you may think that there's nothing for you to do, but wrong. When the person passes away, he may not realize that that adopted child has not been provided for. Okay, so again, it's why you need to do a will. Okay, when you have a child out of wedlock, adopted child. This one, Inheritance Provisions Act, is something I think you know, is that when you, let's say in your will, you did not include a certain family member, they can actually make a claim to court, right, and say, hey, I was a dependent of him, I need some money, right, and ask for the estate for money. Under Muslim, the High Court has said it does not apply to Muslims because you have your own set of laws and there's no provision for that. So sounds like Muslim law very harsh, right? Don't worry. Okay. Later we go to the solutions. Okay. So for Muslims, there's no two ways about it. And sometimes I want to make this very clear because I do have Muslims who also come to see me and say, I want to make a will, but I don't want to follow Muslim law. Right? I want to put in any manner I want. They say, wait, hold on a minute. Because I have to tell you, because I don't make the law. This law is already made by Parliament. It applies in Singapore. That the law says, right, that the distribution of the assets, if you're doing a Muslim will, it must be in accordance with Muslim law. There's no two ways about it, no. The reason why some people think they can just write a will and then say, I choose to opt out of Muslim law. Then the court will just tell them that, look, at section 111, you cannot opt out. Okay, there's no opting in, opting out. If you're a Muslim, you fall under 111. But of course, I will show you other case laws, how the courts can deal with some other scenarios, how you get around this. Okay? Okay, the keyword actually is the word assets. Later we will discuss. Okay? Second one is just, it means when you don't have a will. So you cannot opt out. Okay. Now this one, you may have heard of this word before, Faraid. Okay. Now it simply is the default. That means under Muslim law, there is a prescribed share. It's actually in the Quran, where it says, if a man passes away, the wife gets how much, etc., etc. Okay. So it's all prescribed share. Wait, hold on. I'll just take my bag away. Okay. Then there's one more seat. Okay. Now, so this is the default system. If you don't do anything, that is the default. Then if you do something, what can you do? And there are all these instruments. Only the English translation will appear later on. Okay. And then the other one is where you have assets, right, which will impact on your next of kin and your beneficiaries, but you realize that actually the Muslim law does not apply to them because there are other laws at play. Okay, and that's very important to know in the Singapore context. Okay, so again, if there's no will, there is a default, so don't worry. Okay, so in a way, it's like the ISA. There is a default, and if there's a will, then that it will go according to this, assuming all those you have done validly. Okay, don't worry. Okay, so what is Faraid? What is Faraid? Okay, this is the default system. Okay, and what is the source of Faraid? It's actually from the Holy Book, from the Quran. Okay, these are the sayings of the Prophet or his actions. If you want more details, just go to the MUIS website, Google it. You will have a bit more write-up than this. I took it from there. Okay, for your takeaway is just that under the Faraid, there is actually prescribed shares. So, for example, okay, wait, later I come to that. So the why Faraid was introduced actually because prior to the Islamic law, okay, it was actually a very ancient system where the females did not get anything. When the man passed away, right, the females get nothing, and the father, the mother also got nothing. So under Islamic law, right, you see the verses, they expanded who gets what. Okay. Now, wait. How did I go back? Sorry. Sorry. I accidentally pressed the wrong button. Where is this? Okay. Okay. So just to give you an idea, some of the things that you may have heard already is that the males get double the female. Okay. That is because it is also rooted to the idea of responsibility. The reason why the male get double the female is because it is actually an obligation of the male to take care of the female. So hence the two is to one. So when a brother gets double, he is also expected to use that money to look after his sister. But if the sister gets half of the brother, the money is for herself. But increasingly, I will show you in today, 2025, right? We are getting a lot of requests from people to say, can we do a deed of arrangement whereby the brother and sister all get equal, right? This is today's context because actually my sister can take care of herself, and I want to just give it to her as well so that I don't have the responsibility of looking after her. All this can be done with consent. Okay, don't worry about how to calculate. Okay, and I tell all my students this for exams, don't worry. There's nothing for you to calculate because we already have a system. you go to the Sharia Court website, okay, you can actually key in a trial calculator. So under the drop-down system, you can say, okay, just play around. This is male, no need to put any names, okay? And then you just say, 1 wife, 3 sons or 4 daughters, whatever, whatever. And then you click, they will give you what is the allocation. Okay, you can play around as much as you want. Okay, this is quite a good system. It's also used by the courts. Okay, yeah. Anyone can. Anyone can access this. There's no password, there's no portal. So it's actually, you just Google Sharia Court, and then, or you want to Google further Sharia Court inheritance calculator. You will see that, and then you just key in. You can change by putting in maybe 1 wife, you put 2 wives also can, right? And see what the result will be. Very interesting. I just had lunch yesterday after a meeting, right? And we had a group lunch, and the lady who said to me turned out to be a Muslim lady lah. So across me, the other ladies were asking about, hey, how come, what happens when a man has 2 wives and then he marry, how you get, right? Then I said, you just go to this calculator and you just find out lah. So she found out, so she tried, no, during the lunch, and then she got shocked how little she will get. After that, her whole mood changed, during the lunch. I like, hey, don't worry, don't worry. Okay, you go back home, you make sure your house is under joint tenancy, you open up a joint account with your husband, all this, you don't stress so much. Okay, but so sometimes you can get them in the right mood lah. Okay, so again, you don't have to worry about calculating. Okay, even my students don't have to worry. I tell them because it's already done for them. Even the Malaysians actually use this website. Last time people go to Malaysia ask for advice. Now they use our website. Okay. Now, but there's also something called Baitumal you may have heard before. So what happens if, let's say, there's no male beneficiary? Okay, you have 3 daughters and no sons. Okay, a share will then go to Baitumal, which is a community fund. Okay, but it is administered by MUIS, and sometimes MUIS get very sensitive because people accuse them of, wow, why you take the money? But their response is always, we don't take your money. We are the guardians or the custodian of the money, right? And it is because it's prescribed in the Quran, so we look after the money, and then their job is to then use it for charity. Okay, so you see the Baitumal money is to be used for charitable purposes lah. Okay, now, so, and this is where a portion of the share can go to Baitumal. Again, you just go to this inheritance calculator. You don't have to worry. If you are worried, whether or not, if you have no sons, it will go to the Baitumal. Just check. Okay, but there's a solution lah. Later I tell you lah. Okay, if you don't want Baitumal to get, because I mean, let's be frank, there are people who says, I work so hard, I've got 3 daughters, why should a share go to Baitumal? So we think of solutions for them. Okay. Scary lah. Maybe I say, don't give to MUIS, don't give to Baitumal. Suddenly someone is reminding, be careful what you say. Sorry. Okay. Okay. We will give halal solutions, don't worry. Okay. So these are some of the estate planning instruments. Okay. Muslim will, okay. This is the big difference between a Muslim will and a non-Muslim will. Okay. The restrictions. In a non-Muslim will, you can do anything you want, right? You can say, I give everything to my wife, right? And ignore your children also. As long as you did it consciously, you did it without anyone putting a gun to the head, it will still be valid. But for Muslim, cannot. Okay, you can only give away up to 1/3. Okay, and when I say 1/3, you cannot put in the 1/3 people who are in the 2/3. The 2/3 are the prescribed share, the fixed share. Because then what you're doing is you're trying to play around with the prescribed shares. So let's say you put in your 1/3, you go and put your wife and your children. So in such a way that actually you affect the prescribed shares. So you're playing around with the system. So that's why actually you cannot. But then there's a way out, okay, which is by consent, which we will go later. Okay, your beneficiaries can actually consent among themselves to agree that, say, for example, the sisters and the brothers all get the same. They can, so long as they are, of course, old enough to consent lah. You don't ask a 5-year-old boy to consent. I think that one won't, the court will not uphold it. Okay, so the 1/3 rule is very important. Up to 1/3. Okay. Okay, this is what I said just now. Okay. 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 So then, therefore, if there's so many restrictions, right? Well, 1/3 rule, then why bother to make a will? You bother because sometimes, right, you want to give to your adopted children because, as I said just now, they do not become beneficiaries even after the legal adoption. They do not. Okay, unlike the civil law. Stepchildren, step parents, you may have raised them since they were very little, and you've grown very fond of them. Non-Muslim family members, this one I get quite a lot because a lot of my clients are also converts. So they say they want to give to their parents, they want to give to their siblings, right? And so they do a will up to the 1/3 mark to do that. Okay. Child out of wedlock, because the Legitimacy Act does not apply to Muslims. So, and sometimes people forget, no, I've got cases that are very sad because when you apply for the inheritance cert at the Sharia court, when to do your grant of LA, they actually ask for the birth certs of the children and they actually look at the birthdays. So they can see if your child was born in 2010, but you got married in 2011. So they will say, we don't put the child inside the inheritance cert. So it can be quite sad. Okay. Okay. Even if you adopt, unfortunately, right, it does not apply, the civil law does not apply in the sense that under civil law, when you have legally adopted your child, he or she automatically becomes your beneficiary, right? That does not apply to Muslims. So that's the problem because the Muslims say, hey, but I also went through the same method at Family Justice Court. I also got a certificate to say that my child is, this adopted child is my child. But that's why they look at the birth certificate. But problem because for those of you who are familiar with adoption, when you fully adopt your child, your birth certificate actually does not say that the child is adopted, no? It actually has the name of the new parents. So you need to declare lah. Okay. I had one very sad case just last year where the man passed away and the woman, the wife, put herself and the child in the inheritance certificate. So the woman and the child, they got the bulk of the estate, right? But it turned out that his brothers were unhappy, so they complained. They confronted her and say, your child is adopted, so your child is not the beneficiary, da, 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 da. Big hoo-ha, right? And then they went back to the Sharia court to get that inheritance certificate revoked and changed to another one. And the poor boy got 0. I was so sad for the boy. Okay, he's now about 21 years old. He was doing his NS. But imagine, they just go there and storm the house and demanded, yeah.
And you mentioned that the one thing is the
If
beneficiary consent. At which point in time you need the consent, and how is this consent recorded?
Okay. Now there are two schools of thought on this. There's one school of thought which are very rigid, where they say that the consent should only be after the deceased has passed away. Okay. That one is very rigid because the common sense approach they take is you cannot give what you don't have yet. So you wait until it becomes your share, and then you will then redistribute lah. That one no issue. But there's another school of thought say no need to be so rigid. You can also consent, right, before the deceased pass away, but that would be more like an intent. So what you can do, you can have a hybrid system. So I've done cases where we put in the will, no, that I have actually talked with my children, my whole family, we've all discussed and we agree, right? And the children have agreed that they will redistribute equally. And then we get the children to sign the consent even at the time of making the will. The only difference is this. The person making the will cannot make it as a direction, as a bequest, because then he will infringe the 1/3 rule. So he puts it in a will more like he is aware or he knows that the children are going to do this or have done this, that they have told him that they are doing a consent and I have seen the consent. So he's highlighting that, okay, take note, my children have consented. And of course, the children will sign the consent. So normally we bring down the whole family and then we get all of them to sign the deed of family arrangement. So far it's worked, the courts have accepted it. Okay.
But the old school.
No, that's a very rigid school. Some people still stick to it, yeah.
The beneficiary will agree to give to
Okay.
I can't imagine that.
Can you hold on first? Because there is an actual live court case on that. We will get there. We will get there. There is a real court case that went all the way to the Court of Appeal. Okay? on that point. Okay. So the last one is, of course, you can give to charity friends, your teachers, etc., etc. lah. Okay. Okay. So this one is what I said at the beginning. Okay. This one quite sad lah, because there have been real life examples where people who are well-meaning, they do their wills, but they never go to you, right, to all of you and ask for simple advice how to do a will. They go and do their DIY will, right? And then they go to the court, sorry, not valid. Why? Never comply with some of this. The most famous, the most common is the two witnesses. I don't know why in today 2025 you're all nodding your head means you also got stories like that. You all also hear stories like that that you've seen your friends or what telling you that they have done a will, and sorry, the wife saying my husband did a will. Then you say, can I see the will? And then only one signature. Ayo, so sad. And it has happened. No, the last one it happened was this guy he's an engineer, so very high, and he's got several houses and a well-educated person. Then the wife came to see me and I said, hey, why got only one signature? Oh, he thought that was enough. His friends told him, one's enough. Cannot lah. Then I said, where did he sign it? So at the coffee shop, he asked his friend to say, so please, if y'all tell people, just remind them. And the two witnesses must sign together in the presence of the person signing. It's very scary, you know. It's so important that I cannot believe that in 2025 we still have cases like that. Yes. Yeah, if not, he can just do another will, right? Yeah, that's the sad part. Very sad. No, that case even sadder ending, because he actually wanted to give to the children a lot of his assets. But what happened? Sorry, I said, because that case I don't want to forget. Why it's very sad is because after he died, okay, then how do I say? This one is every night they had prayers at home. Wait, and the wife's former schoolmate came every night to join in the prayers. Okay, so became like a very comforting figure. And then the children told me 3 months later, the mother got married to that man. Okay, comforting figure, shoulder to cry on, right? So like that. And then they found out, he asked the wife, because now the wife is sole owner of everything, right? The joint, to make him the joint owner. But this is real life. In fact, that case a bit scandalous because they did not want to tell the children first that they were married, and the children said there was what, and they were, when one day they saw on the home CCTV, right? They saw the mother's car coming into the house, right? And then they saw, right? First the mother got out of the car, and then they saw this like a big woman coming out of the car. It was actually the man dressed in woman's clothes to pretend and hide and enter the house so that the children don't suspect. But that was what this man did. Very sad, very sad. So, but what can you do? Right? He was worried about the future, but he did not go and see you all. Right? He go and see a friend at the coffee shop, go and witness his will, and then the will not valid. So I feel very sorry for the kids. But those are the real life things that happen. Okay. So the rest all I think quite self-explanatory. Oh, this one important. Also, the witness cannot be a beneficiary. Sometimes people still forget. You ask the wife, you sign for me, sign for me, right? And then not valid. The person say, oh, but I don't know. But sorry, cannot. Or your witness cannot also be what it means, the spouse of the beneficiary. I give you an example. Sorry. We had a very famous politician last time, right? Who passed away, and then there was a big hoo-ha about how many wills he died. But you notice the players, right? It was like the son is involved, two sons involved, and then their wives got involved. Very dangerous. Okay, that one, the difference was who made the will. But imagine if the spouse of the beneficiary also signed as a witness. Cannot lah. Okay, stay away lah. That's why actually, as a matter of policy, I don't do for family. No, I don't do wills for family. Better get someone independent so that no one accuse me of trying to influence what you want to give, right? I draw that line. Okay, I leave it to you lah, with your personal comfort level. Okay, so this just to pause to see how far we understand so far this talk. Okay, So just let me know valid or invalid. Okay, the first one, I give everything to my wife in accordance with Muslim law. These are from the real files, all from real files. Valid or not valid? Very good. You're better than my students. Okay, because they are normally I have half. Why? Very good. Okay. My students will tell me, it's valid because they say in accordance with Muslim law, man. Yeah, but you cannot just by putting in the magic words in accordance with Muslim law, right? Turn something that is invalid into valid what? Right? Because under Muslim law, you cannot give everything to your wife. There is a prescribed share that she gets. Okay? Under the Faraid just now. So you cannot, and this was done by a lawyer, this will. So they came to see me, right? And they said, can you fight for me in court to validate this will? I couldn't. Because I said the law is you must follow, but we solved the problem on a very practical level. Okay? This was a case where I tell you why the man did that. Because he is Muslim, the wife is non-Muslim. Okay, so he thought he could do it. So he wanted to give everything to the wife because he was under the impression that if he does, he could only give up to 1/3. That part he knew. Okay, but he said, I want to give everything. So, but he thought the magic words in accordance with Muslim law would solve everything. It didn't. Okay, so in the end, the wife got 0 because the Muslim law does not recognize a civil marriage. So she got 0 in the inheritance certificate. But you know who got? The man's brothers, the man's mother, the man's brothers. So we solved this by having a big family meeting. I still remember it was a big family meeting in Kembangan, nice house. Okay, there were so many people at the house. So I had to explain to them why we are doing this and all. And I brought a commissioner for oaths as well on that day to the house. Because I said, can now, having explained, right? And you all love your brother, right? You all love your brother. You all know your brother actually loved his wife so much, right? He really would have given everything to her. Then they said, yes. Do you all agree to all consent that all of you now redistribute the share to the wife? I can tell you, one by one, my heart also like, okay, sign, phew, sign. So it's like 10 siblings. So by the time it got to the last one, right? The wife, I think her face revealed everything. She wanted to just collapse on the floor. Know the relief that she felt. But that's how we saved that situation. Yes.
If I'm a black sheep, I think the number 10, I don't want to sign.
That's the problem.
You go,
see, then it cannot be an arrangement that all consent, right? Then you need to do an individual arrangement with each of them. Because then A can give the share to the wife, B can give, C can give, but it cannot be a collective all give already lah. So you can still do it individual. So the black sheep will keep lah, and forever remain the black sheep lah. Okay. 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 So the second one, also from an actual file, if I do not return from Hajj, my house shall belong to my adopted daughter. Can or cannot? There are two reasons here, right? Or more, right? One is the fact that you cannot give everything to the adopted daughter if it breaches the 1/3. And the other one, the problem was this. He did come back from Hajj. You know, they go to the pilgrimage, right, in Saudi, and then he came back, and then he never updated his will. So on both counts, actually, it was invalid. This one, another sad case, because this adopted daughter was raised from a baby until adult, until she became like 30, 40 years old. No. Then the man passed away. The man passed away. The man's brothers came and chased her out of the house because they said, you got no share, you're only an adopted child. Then she showed them this. She showed them the will. The court said not valid. No, cannot give everything to the adopted daughter. So I still don't know why people don't get proper advice. They go and do all these things on their own. Okay. Then the last one, this one is just a trick question lah. So you give one house to A, another house to B, another house to C, just to move things faster. This one depends, right? Because I purposely did not put the value of the house. So it may be possible, it may not, because we don't know what are his overall assets. He could have so many assets that actually this may not be. Or the other one is, of course, because they are people who belong in the 2/3 category, right? They can always do the deed of family arrangement. They can agree, this is what father wants. We all agree, we will honor this. Also can be done. So today, the trend I notice a lot of lawyers and people are doing is they are coming to their own private agreements, the deed of family arrangement. And later we will have that case study lah, right? What's the importance of having it in writing, you know. Okay, so what you cannot give away under a will, I think this one you all should know already lah. Okay, but the important one is why I raised this under joint tenancy, and later there's an actual case that went to the High Court, is because last time there was this, you all know what's a fatwa, no? A legal, it's a ruling issued by the Religious Council of Singapore. There was a ruling that says that under Muslim law, there is no concept of joint tenancy. So if the man passes away, for example, it doesn't go to the wife. It is actually 50-50, and therefore the other beneficiaries can actually make a claim. And that led to a lot of problems. I will go to the actual case later. Okay, now just to highlight why I use all this, because there are historical evolutions in the Muslim sector on all these three. Okay. Okay. But first, now that I always love case studies because these are actual real life cases. The court case on a will. Now there was this guy, Shaik Ahmad, Okay. Now look at his life story. Okay. And then you see, guess how many houses did he have? Just a rough guess lah. When he passed away. Just in Singapore, I don't know how many he had in Indonesia lah. He died in Indonesia. Anyone? Any idea?
10.
Okay. Come on. Okay. Then you know why there's a big fight lah. Okay. He had 44. Okay. Sounds like Chinese what? Die. Okay, no, that's just coincidence. Okay, now no hammer already. Okay. So he had 44 houses. And in those days, I assume they must have been big land lah. Okay, very big land. Okay. So that's why he left a will. Now, in his will, he said he will give to his wife and children. Okay. Then what happened? They got inheritance certificate from the Indonesian court, and then they submitted the same certificate to the Singapore court, which just repeated what the Indonesian court said, and it gave it to his wife and 6 children. However, right, there were other people who took out a High Court application where they say, hey, wait a minute, he actually had 5 wives, okay? And we are the children of the other wives. Okay. Muslim can have how many wives? So how, is it correct or not? He can have 5 wives. Valid or not valid? Right, it's valid because 4 at any one time. Okay, so one could have passed away, and then after replacement lah, like football lah, one go in, one go out. Hey, don't laugh, no. I tell you, I got a real divorce case. This case I handled, right? He was going through a divorce with his 3rd wife. Okay, but he refused to agree to the divorce. He said, unless you find me a replacement. And she did, no? She did. She went online lah. And this was like many years ago when online was new. So I was also like, can go online and find a wife. She did. She found one in Australia who was willing to be the 3rd wife. I was like, wow. Okay. That's why sometimes I'm not surprised anymore at real life stories lah. when I hear all this, but it sounds like wow. Okay, sidetrack. So back to this. Now the problem is this: how was the High Court going to resolve this issue? So the judge Lee Siew-Kin said, well, all I have to do is this: I have to determine whether each of the marriage to those wives is a valid marriage or not. If it's a valid marriage, then they are valid. They are legitimate heirs, right? They are beneficiaries. So imagine the exercise that they have to go through. Bring witnesses and everything from like 30 years ago, 20 years ago. I think most of the witnesses also passed away, but then they had to lah. If you read the whole judgment, it's so messy. So, but that's what they had to do. So these are cases that are adjudicated not in the Sharia court, it's in the civil court. Okay, in the High Court. Okay, the Sharia court only give the inheritance certificate. That's it. Where there's a fight, then you need to fight it out in the High Court. Okay. So then this is another case law. Okay, this is about gifts. I'll come to this. Now, just to this is a bit technical, but there is this such thing called a hibah, which is an absolute gift, which is self-explanatory lah. If it's an absolute gift, then it's valid because you can give anything you want in your lifetime. But make sure you record lah, because we don't want your other challengers to say that, hey, where's the proof that it was a valid gift? So it's good to have a record. Okay, but the problem we have is also this thing called a Hibah Ruqba, which is a conditional gift. So this was actually done in a case And the facts of this, a Hibah Ruqba works like this. I am giving you the house. Okay. But if you die before me, the house comes back to me. That's the condition. Okay. So they actually signed to say that I'm giving you the house, no? But it's an instrument that you don't have in the civil courts. Okay. Now, then this became the problem. There was a case in 2017, Haja Maideen's case. Well, okay. Facts. HDB house, mother passed away, and then 2 sons, 1 daughter. The elder son wanted to sell, but the daughter refused because the daughter said, hey, the mother signed the gift. Okay, giving the house to me. Guess what happened? Okay, you're right. You're both right. Okay, the court ruled in favor of the son, but the question is why? Why did the High Court agree with the son? Okay, because it says when number one, yes, you have proven to me that there is such a thing under Muslim law called a gift. However, when you want to look at the inheritance in Singapore, you also have to see whether there are other laws of the land that are applicable. And in this case, because it's a HDB house, the HDB Act comes into play, which says that no HDB flat shall be disposed. Actually, it's a very long paragraph. I've shortened it for you. Without the prior written consent of HDB. And just because of this one line, no, the High Court said, okay, so where's the prior written consent? Then the sister was forced to say, I don't have. Very sad. Okay, I do not have. So the High Court said, I don't need to go any further because you did not comply with Section 50 of the HDB Act. The valid can the transaction is the transfer was void. So the High Court ruled that cancel the transfer. Actually, the transfer was already done at HDB. No, it was already done. So HDB had to cancel, turn it into void. So this is a reminder that even for Muslims, and you think that you follow the Muslim law, you cannot do it in a vacuum. We live in Singapore. You must make sure that it also does not contravene or go against any other law in Singapore. Okay, and that's why actually it's a headache lah. All the time you got to think what other laws are in play. But now with HDB is very clear. But in my informal discussions with HDB, right, what they have clarified with me is this, right? If how they practice this written consent, right? Of course, they will look at whether the house is fully paid or not. If it's not fully paid, unlikely they will give the consent because they don't know what's going to happen next. And then number two, they also look at the reason, right? Is it you are doing this to kick out a son or a brother? Then they don't want to get involved. But if like the case of an only child, a daughter, then I think they will give their consent. But they always tell me this: why must you? Why must people give the house to the children? Right? Is the neater way is consider selling the house and give the sale proceeds, not the house. Because when you give a house, right, the recipient has to comply with all the eligibility conditions. And you know, like HDB got so many criteria, right? Even including the age of the person, etc., etc. So why give yourself that headache? But maybe sentimental reasons, could be sentimental reasons. So that's why I always tell people, please don't make it difficult. Consider instead of giving the flat, give the sale proceeds of the flat. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Okay, this one is a question that I always get asked. The problem is that we don't have a case law yet. But if you follow the principles, right, we need to sit down with convincing lawyers, right, and get their opinion. Are there other laws that would not contravene or block or obstruct the giving of a gift? So, for example, the Stamp Duty Act or other laws of the land that come into play, the Land Title Act, okay, would there be anything in those laws to similar to a Section 50? At the moment, there's no equivalent in the private sector of a Section 50 or HDB Act so far there's no equivalent, right? The only thing I can think of is, of course, you cannot just give. You must have paid the stamp duty or something. Then we're all waiting for a case law on that. Where is the first case law? Would that invalidate this? But I think it can be resolved, right? Because then the recipient can say, okay, if it's only stamp duty, I pay stamp duty. Then I can, so it's not like outright no, like HDB Act. It can be safe, right? You just pay the stamp duty. Because I have spoken to people from stamp duty before, they always tell me, you can actually pay stamp duty, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not a convincing lawyer. Actually, you have a choice of two, right? One you can pay when you do the deed of gift. The other one you can wait until the person actually pass away and then you receive it. But that one, by then the value of the house goes super high, right? Yeah. So and sometimes people say, but I don't have the money now. So that's why I can't pay the stamp because stamp duty is a lot of money, no. Okay. So they think very hard about this. But it's yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But the scenario was that the son wanted to sell the house, right? The elder son.
Okay, you're right. See, this was a situation whereby you look at the facts again, right? This is what the mother did. She was giving the house to the daughter. And that is what the brother was objecting to. She was disposing of the flat without the consent of the HDB. The previous slide. You see? See? Yeah. So that's why the court agreed with the brother. And said that the mother's act in giving it to the daughter cannot, because this one needs the consent of HDB. Okay, that was the problem. Okay, but I can tell you, I've done a few cases now where we have written officially to HDB to ask them for the prior written consent. They take months, you know. Oh, sorry, you got personal experience also. Okay. Yeah. And we just keep on sending reminder and they say, we're still looking into it. We're still looking into it. How? And then my client's like chasing me, like, why are you so slow? I said, it's not me, it's HDB. Before GE, maybe. But wait, after GE now, wait, lightning. Come on, I'm wearing blue, no. Okay. So that was it. Okay, this one is also just to show you that there is such a thing also where it's a very unique instrument, very often, okay, not used now because this is a vow. And this problem was because MUIS recommended that they do a Nuzriah or a vow, but it's very complicated. This is from the MUIS website. I took it from, you see where it says that I am actually giving my house, right? And I relinquish all ownership of the house. And then it says, right, that the transfer is enforceable 3 days before my death. Okay? So this case went before the High Court, and the High Court just did that, like you perplexed. Like, how is this possible? Who knows when you're going to die? So how is it that the transfer is 3 days before you die? How would you know? So it was a very difficult concept for the High Court to grasp. But the High Court then said, okay, this is the facts of the case. Okay, never mind. This is the court case. This is actually the court case. Okay. What happened was the court then, very simple. They went to the AMLA and they went straight to section 60, saving the judge's dilemma, because in section 60 it says that you cannot do a wakaf or a nazar involving more than 1/3 of your property. So the High Court said, since it's in the law in Singapore, AMLA, I'm applying it. And then therefore, the Nuzriah was not valid. So that solved the question. The only problem I have is this, right? Is that MUIS still has this on their website. And this is a problem. Because then it's like telling people you can still do it. So I think they should take it down. Okay, seriously, it's just very confusing. Okay, but so since that 2004 case, no other reported cases. Okay, this one quite current, very good to know, joint tenancy. But why is it a problem? Okay, this one I think you all will know already. The problem was because of the old fatwa. Do you all know what's a fatwa? It's a ruling. Okay, now just to let you know, I got a lot of all this show. So MUIS published this book, Fatwas of Singapore. This is the edition on inheritance and estate planning. Okay, so what they do is all the fatwas on this topic, they put all into one book. Okay, so another of my show and tell. Okay, now like a bookshop really. Okay, so that's the problem. So when you have this type of fatwa, right, what it gave people who wanted to claim, right, against the widows and all, something to go on with, right? Because they will say, look at the fatwa. It says there's no right of survivorship under Islamic law. Okay, each joint tenant got a fixed share. So I want my share. I'm the brother of the deceased. I want my share. You and your daughter must give me something. So it became very tense, and then it landed in the court, right? Okay. So it landed in the court, and this is the very famous case, Shafeeq's case. This one all property lawyers will know also lah. Okay, they need to know this case. Okay, so the question then at court is this. Remember just now at the beginning I talked about section 111 that the distribution of assets for Muslim must be in accordance with Muslim law. Okay, we'll come back to that. Okay, because the question is this: what is the asset that you're distributing? Because the law says the distribution of assets must be in accordance with Muslim law, right? So the trick is therefore this: if the asset is something that falls under inheritance, then it must follow Muslim law. So the one the Court of Appeal did was this, okay? It said that in a joint tenancy, there is no passing over from A to B. Okay, there is no giving from A to B. In a joint tenancy, is this, imagine this is your house. Okay, there is no line in between to say, this is mine and this is yours. The whole thing is owned by the husband and wife. So when one person passes away, it belongs to the other person, right? The one who survived. You don't take a knife and cut into two. So from husband and wife own something, now either the husband or the wife own. So there is no giving. They said the husband doesn't give to the wife, wife doesn't give to the husband. There is no transfer. It just disappears into thin air. The words of the Court of Appeal, not my words. It morphs into sole ownership. Therefore, the Court of Appeal say, look at the last line. There's nothing to distribute. And that's why if you go back to the words of section 111, the distribution of the assets. Then the Court of Appeal say, but there's nothing to distribute. There is no asset to be distributed. It now belongs to the wife. And that's why that section 111, yes, it's important to note that Muslim law is applied to Muslims, but there's nothing to distribute. That's fine. So that's, okay, actually I've simplified it a lot. The judgment is more than 100 pages long. Okay, I'm not joking, because they went into the history is how Muslim law came into Singapore, why we have Muslim law, and then they went into the Land Titles Act, what is a joint tenancy, the history of joint tenancy, why a joint tenancy, what's it? So it's a very long judgment. It's a favorite exam question. Okay, we always said it for students. Okay, and that's why they also, and then the Court of Appeal also read up on all the scholarly works, right? And actually they disagreed with the fatwa. They say the fatwa that says that no concept of joint tenancy in Muslim law is actually not correct. There are scholars who say that there are, but they don't use the word joint tenancy. They use the word partnership. And they say it's the same principle in a partnership. Anything happens to A, B takes, right? So that's why they say they disagreed with the fatwa. Okay, and so what happened was, So what happened was that they revised the fatwa, and now in 2019, it's inside here, okay, they say that when people buy a property, when Muslims buy a property under joint tenancy, right, the right of survivorship applies, because now they use the law of contract. You have contracted, you and your wife have contracted that will apply to you. That the law of right of survivorship in the joint tenancy, right, will apply. You've agreed. And there's nothing un-Islamic about it, they say. It's a valid Muslim contract. So that's why now the position is aligned. Okay, it's yes. It's also now retrospective. Okay, so the old fatwa put one side. And then they also issued the advice, so no need to do all this Nuzriah thing also, right? Just go and buy things in either joint tenancy, or if you don't want joint tenancy, go and do it under tenancy in common. If that's your decision is actually to split properly, a defined share. But if not, joint tenancy shall apply. So it was a very big case when it came out. So joint bank accounts, actually I'm doing a live case in the High Court now. I just filed our defense this morning before coming down on bank accounts. So it will come out soon okay, because now there's a big dispute whether or not for Muslims it's the same treatment as the joint tenancy. But the High Court has said in Shafeeq's case, right, that you actually look at the contract itself. So when you open up a joint account, actually you open up any account, you see the bank give you all this small print, right, and sign on every page, right, but nobody reads, right? Now you read because there usually is a clause. What happens if one party pass away? right? And the Court of Appeal has hinted that is what they will follow. And I think the banks in Singapore will use the right of survivorship because it's easy, and it's so commercially understood by everyone, the right of survivorship, right? Unless you, okay, but to be fair, I'm not sure whether you all read the Sunday Times just 2 days ago, because there was an article, right, where they were talking about a family business and then how the siblings fought, that case in the Sunday Times. But there's a line inside there where actually it was a joint tenancy, you know. The father bought the house and then he actually made one of the daughters the joint owner and then made another daughter the joint owner. And actually, so if you follow the rule of survivorship, right, the daughter who survived should get the house. But the brother fought and say no, because this was a certain arrangement and it was aligned with whatever they did in business. And the Court of Appeal actually said that in this case, the right of survivorship does not apply. But I'm only bringing up to tell you this because there can be exceptions, therefore. But the Court of Appeal will look at the facts very closely. If I can bet you, if it's a normal husband and wife joint tenancy, they will tell you follow the right of survivorship. They will. Okay, that one was a father and daughter, daughter one, daughter two, and then it was tied in with conditions in the family business, very messy. So that one, when the allegations that they were set off here, set off there, that's why the Court of Appeal allowed not to apply the right of survivorship, because it would have been unfair to give everything to that daughter. Okay, and the boys did not get that. So, but again, generally, right of survivorship. So if you own something with your spouse, the right of survivorship will take place unless you come up with some private agreements on your own, that it shall not. Okay. Okay, so coming to the end already. So this one is a case where just now you asked, okay, about the agreement between family members. Okay, so I put here a letter of wishes. So there was an actual case. There was an actual case where the deceased actually made a will and then forgot about it. But he then wrote a letter of wishes telling, hey, I had a family meeting. He said, I want to make sure all the girls get equal to the boys. Then, then you see the dates, 16 May. And then 2 days later, the children entered into a deed. Okay? Agreeing with what father said. So they like, say confirm, double confirm. Okay? Second time. Then they took the money. 3 days later, they all took the money following the agreement. Then 7 August. See what this one can guess not? This one the boy or the girl? Yeah, so fast, right? Understood, right? Because as you said just now when you see in front of your eyes, right, that actually under Muslim law, boys should get double the girl. Why did I give away my double share? So like, wow, start to be greedy, right? So then somehow he used sort of emotional blackmail, because we must follow the law. We must follow Islamic law. That's why I just want to exercise my right. It's not like I'm greedy. I just want to exercise my right. Okay? They all say that. Okay. Okay. So the issue in the court was therefore this. Is that agreement binding or not binding? Okay. And the Chief Justice said it was binding because, right, you entered into a contract knowingly. You cannot now say, I don't want to follow the contract because Muslim law said I get double. You entered the contract, just now you saw the sequence, right? In a family meeting, no one put a gun to your head. You knew and you collected the money. All the children collected the money. Yeah, okay. So but the thing is, he's one of the signatories, right, to that agreement. So the court said it is binding on you. In fact, the Court of Appeal was very harsh on the boy. It says that you are a Muslim, right? Right? And the Muslim's word is a promise is binding, right? Walao. Yes, I cannot say, man. It's actually in the judgment. Very strict. I like that judge. Okay, there was a Chief Justice. So don't come and play all these games. Okay, so that's why for us lawyers, right, everything, please go and have proof. Because sometimes I get a lot of clients also who tell me, no, but it was verbal. That's the problem, you see. I said, no, don't worry, my siblings will all confirm it. I said, you don't be too hopeful, no? Once you fight in case, the person, no, he did not, she did not. It happens all the time. So please get it recorded in writing. Okay? So, and the deed of family arrangement, please make sure, okay, if one of your signatories is like 85 years old, be careful. Okay, because the other side is going to say she had no, she was not sound mind to do that agreement. She probably had dementia. We hear all this all the time, lah. And you don't ask under 21 also to sign. Okay, that will definitely be challenged. Okay, and this one, because I got no time, but there was also another case where the High Court was very angry. The Chief Justice was very angry in this case because the siblings actually tricked some of the beneficiaries, asking them to sign a deed, right, to renounce their share, when actually it was just to renounce their right to be an administrator. Okay, the case is called Mahidon's case lah. So there was actually this case, and the lawyer also kena suspended lah. Okay, and a warning was given to all lawyers. Okay, so it's you must make sure that you also play it clean lah. Because sometimes you do get people to sign, right, that let your elder brother be the administrator and handle everything, right? You just sign to consent lah, but they didn't know that they were signing a renunciation of all the shares. Okay, so like this. Okay, so I've come to the end. Okay, I think Sylvia, sorry if he's not here. I overrun, but I understand that now is a tea break, right? So we just I pass on to you lah. Okay, but maybe we see whether we can finish well before that lah. It's a bit long. Okay, but during the break, I noticed that some of you like had questions which I think would benefit everyone. So I actually apologize for not answering you just now. I say, hey, you hold it and wait until now so that everybody can hear lah. Okay, though there are no plans, so I have no idea what the questions are coming up. Okay. Okay, stop first. Anyone have a question on a similar topic, similar vein? Okay, and anyone want to add on so that I can do all one shot? Okay, yes. Okay, also Muslim, non-Muslim. Okay. Okay, so many. At death you did already. Sorry. Oh, okay. Okay. While you hold your thought, okay. You put up your hand, right? Okay. Okay. So so it's converted. So now both Muslims.
Yes.
Okay.
But I wanted to know like more if the husband already passed on and then she got some assets. When she passed on, how is hers going to be distributed?
Okay. It depends. After the husband passed on, right? I assume she's the one who converted, right? Does she remain a Muslim or she? Yeah. Okay, stop there. Okay, but I get the vibes. So let's stick to this topic: the Muslim, non-Muslim. Okay. You remember now? Okay.
If a Muslim woman marries a non-Muslim,
okay,
so must that Chinese guy be converted? Is it compulsory?
Okay.
That's number one. And changing of name with what? Hi Mohammad or whatever. Okay. And also about in the event of this man die, what will happen to his estate?
Okay, understand.
What about Muslim couples converted to other religion?
Okay.
And died after that.
Okay. Got it? Okay. I'll try to simplify it. Okay. Because basically the issue therefore is this, right? Number one, I repeat section 111 and 112, right? The person who is a Muslim in Singapore, there is no choice. When he passes or she passes away, the personal law applicable for inheritance is Muslim law. Okay, stop there first. Now, second part is, what if he or she marries a non-Muslim spouse? First of all, maybe just take one step back. For those of you who may not be familiar, in some countries in the region, for example, Malaysia and Indonesia, actually a Muslim cannot marry a non-Muslim. Okay, it's not allowed in Malaysia. Okay, so in Singapore it's different. Two Muslims, you can only have your marriage registered at the ROMM, two M's, Registry of Muslim Marriages. But if one is a Muslim and the other is non-Muslim, you can get married at the single M, ROM, Registry of Marriages. Okay, that is allowed. But they go under the Women's Charter for the civil marriage, we call it. For convenience, we call it a civil marriage. The other one, we call it a Muslim marriage. Now, what is the impact? I now focus when a Muslim marries a non-Muslim, because basically that's what most of you want to know. Now, so remember, bearing in mind the principle of Section 111, that the person who is a Muslim, his assets will go according to Muslim law. Now, if he marries a non-Muslim, the problem is this: the fact that she is a non-Muslim and it is a civil marriage means that under the Muslim law, she is not a beneficiary. And this is always a wow moment when they find out. Okay? But I was telling some of you, I noticed the trend now is that I have a lot of couples who come to see me in this situation before they marry. To us, then what can we do? Tell us, is it correct? No, I hear people say that if Muslim marry non-Muslim, then I don't get anything if my husband passes away, etc. Okay? And a lot of the course I was telling someone, actually I get, it's actually not directly from the couples, no. I get it from the mother of the couple, of the soon-to-be couple, okay? And says that, hey, my daughter, I'm a Christian, my daughter wants to marry a Muslim. Hey, what is going to happen? What if she dies? What if he dies? Then I said, okay, I tell you what, okay, bring all to my office. I tell you one shot easier, right? So I've been doing this quite a fair bit now. And of course, that's how I got to know about Malaysians, because I find that quite a number of people are Malaysians also. Okay, because they say, oh, back in Malaysia, I cannot get married to a non-Muslim, but I want to marry him or her in Singapore. So what do I do? Okay, now, so in a scenario like this, the hard truth, the non-Muslim is not a beneficiary of the Muslim, but the Muslim is a beneficiary of the non-Muslim. Okay, you got a wow already? Okay, you got so this is the moment where I look at the couple's face and I say, so is your relationship strong enough? Do you still want to go on with the marriage, knowing that will happen? Okay, of course, as someone said just now, for the couple, the love is blind. Okay, they will still go ahead, but not for the parents. The parents will red flag, right? And then they start to worry. Okay, so how do you solve this? Some they make very practical arrangements, right? Because then I go into let's talk about what is not covered by the inheritance law. So make sure you buy your house, make sure you are joint owners. Make sure you are joint tenants. So anything happen to the wife, husband is the sole owner and vice versa. That one is regardless of race, language, or religion, the joint tenancy. Okay, so it solves that problem. And then monies, bank accounts. You open up joint bank account. And I tell the women probably, yeah, but let him keep one small sole account, maybe for his hobbies, right? To buy his football jerseys or everything. But salary all put inside joint account. Okay, so at least you can be the survivor, right? And so. Okay, so these are the practical things you do. Then, for example, CPF, quickly go and nominate, and things like that. So that, and insurance, go and nominate also. So in a way, you are actually taking out more and more things that are not to be distributed. So it can be a situation whereby upon death, right, the only thing that is left to be distributed can be the sole account with only $1,000 inside for him to buy his football jersey or what. That's all. Because everything else you have protected. What you bought a joint ownership house, you put monies in joint account, you've nominated CPF. So see, these are the practical things that we do because I don't tell them, hey, don't get married. Okay, because I said that one is personal. I don't interfere whether you want to marry or don't marry. But also as a Muslim, sometimes I also get funny looks from people. I'm be very frank with you. They say, hey, you Muslim lawyer, then why you never discourage them from marrying each other? I say it's not my right. It definitely is not my right. It's very personal. I don't interfere in such things. Okay? Just as now I go to another sensitive part, which is the renunciation of the religion. Right? Quite a few of you ask, what if one person then renounces the religion? Okay? In Singapore, we believe in the freedom of religion, which means there is no law that says you cannot renounce. In Malaysia, it's different. In Malaysia, before I think to renounce, you actually need a court order. And before that, they make you go through counseling. But you know lah, the counseling can be trying to make you stay in the religion, right? That's counseling. So in Singapore, we actually do not have a restriction from anyone to renounce. Okay? But why do they renounce? For many reasons. But if they come to see me and say, I have heard that Muslim law got a lot of restrictions. I cannot give to anyone I want. And then there's this 1/3 rule, and then my daughter only get half. Because of this, I don't want to follow Muslim law. People tell me I must therefore renounce. Because the moment I renounce the religion, then the Muslim law does not apply to me. I can do what I want. I've heard that many times over 30 years. Okay? Again, if that is your issue, if you want to renounce because you think it is not going the way you want it, my solution is let's think of a solution. What is your objective? You want to make sure your daughter get the same as your son, right? Then we do a deed of family arrangement. And you'll be surprised, at the end, many of them say, okay, then I no need to renounce already because my problem is solved. But if they want to renounce because of other reasons, right? They meet another person, etc., they go through some life changing moments, then they feel that religion is no longer what they want to be in, we cannot stop them. In Singapore, there is no law setting out how you renounce, but there are certain ways in which is the norm. Okay, one way is, let's have it in writing. The reason why we need it in writing is because to prevent a fight and the barrier, right? Or how the person is going to go into another land, okay? Because you hear in other cases, they fight whether to cremate or to bury or to this. So in Singapore, you notice this type of cases don't come out in the newspapers, but actually they do exist sometimes. Everything is resolved behind the scenes in Singapore. Okay, very good. No. Okay, hold on. We always do by way of a statutory declaration. So you get them to do a statutory declaration witnessed by a commissioner for oath, because that is good evidence in Singapore, because it amounts to your sumpah, your testimony in court. Okay, so it need not be long. Usually it's just one paragraph, right? My name is so and so. I renounce my religion, so and so. Okay, or you can also put it in your will. Remember, there's always a line in the will. This is my last will, so and so, so and so. And then there's always, I am a Christian, I am a Buddhist, It's good to put the religion in. Again, it prevents people fighting later on, where one person said, no, but, and I get it, I've seen it many times, where the widow comes to see me, the wife comes to see me, is, how come MUIS say he must follow Muslim law? Because Baitumal wants a share. But I never see him go to the mosque, I never see him fast, I never see him pray. I said, yeah, but is he a born Muslim? Yes. Where is the document that says he is a non-Muslim? I don't have. And that's the problem. There is no proof. Because there are court cases on this long time ago, and the High Court judge, I still remember F.A. Chua saying this, right? If the test of whether he is a Muslim or not is based on just drinking, whether he drinks or not, or whether he goes to the mosque or not, and this is actually very insensitive, but this was done before 1960s. That time people more open. He actually said there may not be many Muslims left in Singapore. I actually have this photocopied. There is a judgment in the Singapore court, but of course I don't dare to say it now, because now in 2025 people are very sensitive. Okay, but he actually said that in that case, and he is actually not wrong, because the AMLA, the definition of a Muslim in AMLA is only a one-liner. It says someone who professes the faith. You think, what is the meaning of that? So it's someone who claims to be a Muslim. But what is the opposite of who declares or who claims to be, who professes that is Muslim? The opposite is someone who has renounced the faith. So that's why the court will say, so where's the proof that he is no longer a Muslim? It's because he's born to Muslim parents, right? So the court will treat that, then he is a born Muslim. So then show me the document to say that he's not a Muslim now. And if you are going to tell me because he doesn't fast during fasting month, he doesn't do this, he doesn't go to the mosque, the court will say that's not enough. So you need a solid document that is unequivocal, that is very clear. I am or I am not type of document, very absolute, right? Yes.
So you're saying in the will, what you say in the start is that I can declare I'm a non-Muslim.
Yes, you can.
If I do that, do I still need a statutory?
You can double protection what? You can do both. But okay, let me tell you what you do next with your statutory declaration. Okay, again, it's not in the law, but what is the practice in Singapore? You give a copy of the statutory declaration to the Islamic Religious Council, the one in Braddell Road, MUIS, MUIS. Why do you do that? Yes, because actually MUIS has a database of all Muslims in Singapore. Yeah, so not spy or anything lah. But why do they have it, Muslim? Why do you think MUIS has a database? Very good. Alamak. Exactly. Because every year they will send out a letter, especially during the fasting month, right? They will send out a letter saying that you should pay your zakat, your to charity, you know, there's some figures. So have you ever wondered how is it that Chun can get to you? See? So now you know, right? They have a database. So but the answer is actually they have a database. So if you don't update that database, then you are always in that register. See, the law is this, funnily enough, in AMLA, right? There is a law that says it is a criminal offense if you do not register your conversion. So if you convert to Islam and they say you can only convert at MUIS or at the Muslim Convert Association of Singapore, you will be given a conversion card. Okay, and if you don't register it with the MUIS or with the MCAS within 7 or 14 days, you can be fined a few $1,000s. But the thing is, there is no law in AMLA that says if you renounce the religion. Because maybe in 1960s when they came up with that law, right, they didn't think that people will renounce, to be fair to the lawmakers at that time. And now it's so sensitive, I think no member of parliament will propose in parliament, we should have a law to say renounce, because some people may see it as endorsement, right? The public may say, are you encouraging people to renounce? And then there'll be a big political fight, and then Tampines GRC from 52% become even lower. Okay, this is general election that we had last week. So you all know what I'm talking. They know what I'm talking about. Okay. So these are so politically sensitive. That's why I don't think that law will happen. But so outside the law, that's what you do. You register your conversion informally by giving a copy to MUIS. Then sometimes, this is what I've been told by people who have actually done it. Sometimes MUIS will call you for coffee. Tea session. They will call you for tea session. Why are you doing this? Can we change your mind, etc. But they cannot force you. It's not like in Malaysia. In Malaysia, it is in the law. You cannot convert out of your religion unless you have gone through counseling and then you need a court order. That's why you Google, you can find law cases of disputes over conversion in the Malaysian courts. You cannot find in Singapore. Our Singapore way is all behind the scenes, quietly. Yes.
Is this a PDPA issue?
No. But they don't make it public, what?
About renewal, right?
No. But they don't make it public. They have the data, which probably they take from ICA, right? Where else can they take from, right? But as long as they don't put on their website, these are all the Muslims in Singapore. Wow, they don't do it. They don't do it. They will not do it for whatever reasons. Okay, wait. So have I covered all the Muslim law, Muslim and non-Muslim angle?
The business portion.
That one a bit complicated because business, because it's a partnership, right? Then it will follow what is your partnership agreement. That's what the courts normally do. You're saying that the partnership agreement is silent, is it? Then that will be upheld by the courts. No, what does it say in the partnership agreement? So I would suggest, knowing the Singapore court's approach, right, that he actually stipulate what will happen in the event of it. So it becomes a binding contract upon death. Okay, it's very important. I know, because I've got cases where husband and wife own a business, and then they say, oh, but because of investment purposes, sometimes they take in a non-family member lah. So what will happen? Then I said, you have a proper contract. Get your corporate lawyers to do a contract on what will happen to the partnership agreement lah. It's an arrangement. It's something done by consent, right? Because it could be each of them already own one third. Okay. Yes. His beneficiaries lah. To be honest with you, there's no case law on this. That's why I hesitate to answer. I'm waiting for a case law on this also lah. to be very honest, because you are right in the sense that if it is okay, I use the principles of joint partnership, because the Court of Appeal has said that the Shafeeq's case, they use the principles of partnership to apply in joint tenancy. You know, that means in Muslim law, the partnership is like a joint tenancy. Okay, it's a contract that you agree on this. But I see what you mean. If you have demarcated that the company is wanted you, right? So it should fall to the estate lah, by right, to his beneficiaries. But if you have signed an agreement that this is going to fall so and so, it is likely that the court will uphold that. But that partnership agreement between the partners would hold. You're already making your intent as a gift very clear already. So maybe they should see a lawyer lah on that part and clear. You don't think of it until okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Then you do a step by step lah. You do step by step, right? So husband and wife, okay, and then one of them is a convert, right? But at the time of death, of his death, she is still a Muslim, right? So she inherits lah. So then she becomes the sole owner of everything. Then the law applies to her. What is her religion at the time of? Then it follows the Muslim law. But if she renounces the religion, then it doesn't follow Muslim law anymore. No. If it's become her assets already, right? Then his family is out of the picture. Yeah. No. You're saying that her assets, right, will depend on who her beneficiaries are. Okay, so if she has no sons, then yes, her brothers may be a beneficiary, if that's what you're meaning. Okay. But if she has sons, actually the brothers don't get. In Singapore, when you use the inheritance calculator, you will find that that's why sometimes you pump it with a lot of information. He got 3 sons, and then he got so many brothers, so you'll find that they stop at a certain line. They stop at the first line, the immediate family. In Malaysia, they use a bigger circle. They can include cousins, nephews, all. So that's why it can be a bit confusing. Oh, you're talking about the brother is a non-Muslim. Then he doesn't care. The prescribed shares is only for Muslims. Yeah, then she has to find other two. Sorry, I missed that part. Sorry? Yeah. That calculator, sometimes you bought nothing to do, you just play around. You find it's very interesting, no? Yes. Okay, good question. Yes. Okay. Now, so there are mainly in Muslim there is the Shia and the Sunni. We put the Shia one side. So in Singapore, 99.99% they are all Sunni Muslims. Under the Sunni Muslims, you have the four main sects: the Shafi'i, Maliki, Hanbali, and Hanafi. Okay, don't be confused yet. Shafi'i is what it follows geography. Southeast Asia, most of us are Shafi'i. Okay, then Hanafi is India and Pakistan. So it depends on who was the scholar that actually interpreted the Quran. But across the 4 schools, the differences are very small. We follow Shafi'i. But if you are not Shafi'i, that's why you need that inheritor. then you put in whatever school you're at, then the scholar at Sharia Court will do the calculation based on your school. Now, the biggest difference I can find is actually Hanafi. Because Hanafi, tada, Baitumal don't get. The concept of Baitumal don't have in Shafi'i. Only, in Hanafi. So that's why, okay, also let you know, last year, I had to mediate 2 cases in the High Court. Okay, I also wear the head of mediator. Because what happened was, when they first got the inheritance certificate, they put the deceased as Shafi'i, but there was no male. So the wife and the daughter got XX, and then Baitumal got Y. Okay, same with the other case. You know what the wife did? Took out an application in the High Court for a declaration that the deceased was not Shafi'i but Hanafi. And then MUIS became a defendant to that action, and they said this is all a scam. Because what they're trying to say is they don't want Baitumal to get a single cent. And that's why now they're changing. So then when it went to the mediation, right, I had to do all the things like, where's the proof, where's the evidence, especially when it turned out that he was brought up by Shafi'i parents in Singapore. All his life, nobody knew he was Hanafi. Suddenly upon death, how come he is a Hanafi? So the other side will argue, oh, but he was seen one day in a Hanafi mosque. He was seen doing this or saying that. But the thing is this, it doesn't go very far. Because in Singapore, actually a Muslim can walk into any mosque. So it doesn't, the mosque may be, what do you call it, congregated by many Hanafis, but it doesn't mean that other people cannot go in, right? So for okay, you're Muslim, right? Sometimes which mosque you go to is where it's nearest to you, right? So if you happen to be in Tanjung Pagar, you go to the one in Palmer Road or you go to the one in Telok Air. But if you happen to be in Bedok, you go to the mosque in Chai Chee, right? If you happen to be in Jurong, which mosque you go to? The one in Jurong lah. So the argument like he was spotted at the Hanafi mosque is actually neither here nor there. Okay.
What if this person, like before he deceased, he puts it in a will that he professes the Hanafi?
You know why I'm smiling, right? Because that's what people do now. Yes. I'm giving it to you straight. Okay? You just expose the trick of the trade lah. Because he's not wrong. Because again, you go back to section 2 of the AMLA, the definition of a Muslim is someone who professes the faith. So if you tell me you are a Hanafi, I don't question you. So he said, Ahmad, I want you to put down in my will that I am of the Hanafi faith. Because maybe you got no sons, right? So you purposely put, it is happening today. But it's not illegal. Because there is no prohibition from you to be a Shafi, Hanbali. So normally we just grow up what how our parents raised us. So that is what is happening today. But of course, this one we don't make it public knowledge lah. Because we also don't want people to run to the office and quickly say, "Yeah, I got no daughters, make me a Hanafi." But I get a lot of requests. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay. A bit similar to your question on assets, right? Okay. Anyone related question? That means the foreign element, bring in. Oh, sound like Lawrence Wong last week. Don't talk about foreign elements. Okay, sorry. The G is still fresh lah.
Malaysia, Middle East.
Okay, got it. Okay. Okay. Anything more? I roughly think that these 3 questions represent the Singapore, non-Singapore element of it lah. Okay. I don't know whether you can remember just now the slides. Okay. But section 111 and 112 of AMLA actually had a keyword inside there. Maybe I did not emphasize it enough. It says that the distribution of assets of a Muslim, and then it had a comma, domicile in Singapore shall be in accordance with Muslim law. And so therefore you can use a highlighter, right? And then highlight the words domicile in Singapore. So the moment he goes abroad and live in Australia, technically he is no longer governed by AMLA. And then it becomes the local law in Australia, how they want to treat his inheritance. So the local law, therefore, will be the governing law for him. But it also depends. Oh, did I put the word? There, the second one. Actually, the first one also, but I wanted to shorten it, so I took out the word domicile in Singapore. The domicile in Singapore. Okay, so I lost my train of thought. Okay, the keyword is also where the assets are. So if you have a situation whereby you own assets in different countries, we must always remember, yes, and related to your question is, but is the Muslim law the same in different countries? There are variances. There are variances. That's why you have the keywords as modified, okay? Because they recognize that there are differences. But what you should remember is that when you are talking about the assets, it will follow the law of that particular country, the assets in that country, especially if you're talking about especially when you're talking about real property like houses, because there will be so many local property laws that must be followed, right? Must be complied. So the laws in Australia will say, no, we follow the laws of Australia. UK will say you follow the law of UK. But if you feel very strongly you want the Muslim law to apply to you, what the UK courts will do, then they will say, we are telling you what the UK law is, up to the family members, right? How you want to practice the distribution in accordance with your Muslim law, and we will not stop you from doing that. How you want to distribute. But the main laws on property will still apply. So the joint tenancy, right? In Singapore, we apply it across the board, whether to foreigners or to Singapore. So we can assume in other countries, they will also apply it across the board. But any Malaysians here? Any Malaysians? Okay, just to let you know, in Malaysia, Muslims are not allowed to buy and hold in joint tenancy. In Malaysia, all the Muslims can only buy as tenancy in common. And that's why I said the problem with why we need to know about joint tenancy, because they are still holding on to the old school of thought that in Muslim law there is no concept of joint tenancy. That's why in Malaysia everything is tenancy in common. Okay, thanks for highlighting. Because they apply it as a law of the land. They made it the law of the land. So I always have problems when I explain to the Malaysians that come here to Singapore about, don't worry, your wife will get everything because it's a joint tenancy. Oh, really? Yeah, and that's why they come here lah. Okay, we bring more foreign talent. Okay, so be careful when you deal with. That's why I said you need to also know a bit of the laws of the local country. So for us as lawyers, right, I'll be very honest with you. I don't dare to put anything in the will when to govern what is the law on that particular country. So my way out is always, right, if it's a Singapore will, I deal with the Singapore assets. But I acknowledge that there are assets in other countries, and then I tell the client, we put it in such a way that you do have a separate will for each separate country. So I have clients who they do a Singapore will, and then they have one in America, they have one in Scotland, they have one in the Middle East, because it's very dangerous for us to assume that our Singapore will, even though our red passport can go anywhere, right? But to assume that our Singapore law will apply anywhere in the world. Too risky for me as a lawyer. I don't want to get negligence suit. So for example, if it's a property in Hong Kong, I will just put that I do have properties in Hong Kong, right? Which shall be distributed in accordance with the laws of Hong Kong. That's it. And then you leave it to the Hong Kong lawyers to draft the will in Hong Kong, to do whatever in Hong Kong. Very dangerous. It's like your driving license only in Singapore. Then you cannot drive in another country. Be very careful. Very careful. And that's why also for me, I collaborate a lot with overseas lawyers. So I have Middle Eastern clients quite a lot now. Okay, and I said the Middle Eastern part, we leave it to the Middle Eastern lawyer. Yeah. Yeah.
A Muslim man married to a non-Muslim woman.
Okay.
Sometime after he wants to marry to a second wife.
Okay.
Is it possible? A Muslim second wife, is it possible?
Yeah. I mean, the application of the Muslim man can marry up to 4 wives, that still applies to him.
So
but it sounds a bit unfair. You take one non-Muslim wife and then you got one Muslim wife. Yeah. Yes, yes.
Yes.
You can still take the second.
Yeah.
So he can exceed
He can-
5.
The question is whether or not he can marry 4 Muslim wives and then plus one Muslim wife. I think that one ROM or ROM will object. Yeah. No, but I think our registry of marriages will probably not allow it.
But for the first woman was a non-Muslim woman.
Yeah.
So that was a civil
Yes.
marriage, and then 4 more
Okay.
Muslim women.
Just for mental gymnastics, it sounds possible because the Muslim wife, the law is on Muslim marriages, so the civil wife doesn't count. But I think from the eyes of the law in Singapore, I think he's in a very dangerous position because there are also bigamy laws in Singapore, right? And I think the wife can file a complaint and the police can take action. Yeah, because I think it doesn't sound right that he's taking advantage of 2 different laws.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Fantasy
Of yours. Sorry. Okay. Okay. No, because the statute already covers that. CPF Act makes it very clear. You follow the nomination. Yeah. Whatever combination you want. 99% to me, 1% to the wife also can. Yes. The law has changed. Now they also can for revocable. At one time, the fatwa was only for irrevocable. So they move. The fatwa keeps changing. Okay. No, to harmonize the position between the civil and the Muslim law. Yeah. Okay, this is a question that have been plaguing me for the last few years because I'm getting a lot of requests on this. Simply put, if it's a gift inter vivos, right? Technically, the argument can be it does not apply because you're giving in your lifetime. But if there are elements in the trust where the giving is only after your death, right? Then the argument will be it sounds that you have to follow the Islamic trust. So what I do is this, because I get a lot of requests now from the private wealth management of banks. Is actually I said in order to resolve this, I actually tell them that I will get an opinion from a Sharia consortium, an expert, because I want their certificate to say that this is actually not inconsistent with Muslim law. And then they are more at peace. Okay? Because at the end of the day, right, who do you worry about? I tell you, the government not interested in you, no, actually. Seriously. Okay? It is actually your own siblings, your own family that you worried about. Because other people got no local standing. They got no legal standing to challenge what you want to do. So you got to worry about your brothers and all who will challenge.
So in the situation, for example, the kind of trust for like business setup, say the Muslim secular will 1/3 of the assets.
Yeah.
Do the trust distribution need to follow the Muslim law in the sense that, let's say the father wants the trustee to give the daughter more than the son.
Okay.
Can he do that?
Yeah. It depends on how the trust is worded, no. Okay. So one of the conditions of a trust, a Muslim trust is also that you need to be very clear when is the point of giving, because how do I say it? You cannot on the one hand say I'm giving all this, I'm creating a trust, now it belongs to my daughters in equal shares, the brothers, right? But at the same time, you still control all the monies and everything. So how do we get out of that? And sometimes you appoint a protector, right? Which we all know is a friend of the settler also lah. Okay, like precepts also lah also, right? You get a professional company to then be to create a space so that there is no element that, oh, I actually not really giving, no, I just put on paper, but actually I control everything. So you need to make sure that it's still compliant with the Sharia principles, where you give means you give. I know it's a bit complicated, and that's why I said I actually get a professional opinion from a Sharia consortium on this. So far, they have traditionally been ruling that a trust can be done by Muslims, right? As long as the purpose is not inconsistent with Muslim law lah. So you cannot say I create a trust and then put the powers given, like to invest in alcohol companies, gambling companies, and all. Compliant. People are very cautious, right? And they just want that certification from the Sharia company to say that it is like it's like opening up a restaurant and then I want a halal certificate because I want to be assured that it is halal, right? As compared to I just tell people it's halal. So that's what is happening now. But it's a very complicated area lah. This one actually you need another talk lah for Islamic trust. I'm not joking. It's very complicated because these are mainly the high net worth people, and they have very specific requirements.
So the question leading up to this part, sure that you have come across cases of doing the type of arrangement.
Yeah.
I guess when they come to see you, they really kind of agree to whatever that the parent wanted.
Okay.
Or do you mitigate it to the process whereby we can agree upon something?
Okay. It depends lah. Most of the time, actually, it's the parents that come to see me first, and then they say that I want this to happen. I want my daughters to get the same. How do I convince my son? Right? Then they will ask me, can you explain to my son, right, that what I'm doing is not un-Islamic. I'm doing it because, no, she's your sister after all. And then you explain about the responsibilities that come with having a bigger share. Sometimes I also use a bit of emotional blackmail lah. Because I will say things like, you know, right, with the bigger share comes bigger responsibilities. What is the line in Spider-Man? With greater power comes greater responsibilities. So I will adapt lines like that. So I said, so you will be judged on Judgment Day, you know. Okay, that if you have been given double your sister, did you take care of her? You know, was she suffering at that? So then, yes. So if to alleviate that, right, you agree to give whatever to your sister now lah. So on Judgment Day, you won't be asked that question. So I need to use all sorts of tactics and psychology, right, to explain to them. It's not that your father is being unkind to you, right, or he just wants to see you suffer. No, it's because he just wants to be fair to all the children.
Say the son for whatever reason.
Yeah. Then we can't go through with the deed of family arrangement. So the father gives to the daughter. Yeah, it has been done. No choice lah. Because the father feels that what do you call it? Maybe I also don't want to make my son decide. So I will make the decision. So in my lifetime, I give one house to my daughter now lah. But it's not actually the problems of the rich lah. Most of us don't have this problem lah. We only have one house. How to divide? These are the people who I can give that one house to daughter, another house to. Yeah, I've seen lah. But the worry is always when they give to a daughter, right? What's the next worry? Whether the son-in-law will inherit, and that's where the fathers always tell me their biggest worry. What if I give to my daughter, she passes away? That good for nothing for her. Yeah, he take Hey, what to do? I had one guy, no, he came to see me, and then he said that, hey, when my daughter got married, I gave her a house. And then I said, only to her? No, I give them as a wedding gift to both of them. Then he said, how to now take back? I said, how to take back? I said, I only want to give to my daughter. I don't want to give to him in case something happens. I said, too late. Okay. That one no need civil law. I mean no need Muslim law. That one is normal law lah. Utang all normal lah. Yes.
That is for the non-Muslim wife protect his husband died.
Okay. Okay.
But not the other way around. She died first for whatever reason. Then all the joint assets belong to her husband. Then if she has got parents or brother want to keep, cannot.
Yeah, it's the same question that she asked actually just now. Okay. Yeah.
The joint assets.
Yeah. So then she may still do a joint tenancy so that she gets the protection at least of the roof over the head. But yeah, and then the other one is of course if she really wants to give to her parents who are non-Muslims, then she can give up to 1/3. Huh? Hey, wait. Who said that? Okay, I tell you why. Because I didn't put it in the slide. Because one of the rules also of inheritance is that the moment you kill your husband, you actually stop being a beneficiary. You become disqualified. So too many slides, so I had to take that out. But I put it to my students, and then I get a lot of questions on that. So actually the law that the murderer cannot benefit from that crime. Same lah. Same. Yeah. Okay. 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 Why not? Yeah.
And then can this non-Muslim deal with
The non-Muslim can do whatever he or she wants. Right? Yeah. Okay.
now?
Okay. So now the Muslim becomes a non-Muslim. Okay. Okay, got it. Follows the civil law. Yes. It not can. It is the law. The moment she renounces the religion, Muslim law doesn't apply. Yes. Yeah. I see what you mean. Okay, that's another question I always get. I tell you what. I see. Yeah.
That portion.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I had this period. It also, I felt very bad because, okay lah, I share with you but it's not recorded Okay, I just share. I had a man who came to see me. He was a non-Muslim and he became a Muslim, right? And then he said this to me. He said that if this is going to be so difficult that Muslim law cannot allow me to do all this, I want to renounce. He said this to me. Then his next line was this, but I don't want my wife to know. Okay, so he said to me, I don't want to put it inside my will. Okay, then I said, then how will people know that you're not Muslim? Then he said, can you do this now? Can I do a SD, but don't put the date? Okay, I said, what? Then how? Then he said, then when the time comes that means when I KO, then I let my son tell people that actually that I was actually a non-Muslim the day before I died, or something like that. I'm like, huh? I said, I will kena in trouble because it's like it sounds like a scam already, what? Right? How can you say on the one hand in your will? Then I told him I have a problem because in your will you want to say that you are Muslim because he doesn't want to offend the wife. He wants to show, but he says, but I don't want Muslim law to apply, so I want to do an SD. Then I said, you're asking me to do two documents. I'm a Muslim in one and a non-Muslim in the other one. I said, I will get in trouble. Ethically, I will get in trouble, right? So I told him, please go to another law firm. International Plaza, there's a directory downstairs. Let's go. So this I don't dare to touch because it's your integrity also, right? So I always play the role. Let's see whether we can have a solution, whether or not we can carve out certain things like a gift, right, or create a trust for your children, stepchildren, rather than asking me to do 2 documents saying opposite things to each other. And then I told my whole team, no, you all make sure no email where you agree to do what he asked you to do. This can backfire on you, no? Yeah. But he's a nice guy lah. I know where he's coming from. Yeah, I know where he's coming from. He actually wants to give more to his wife and all that side. He doesn't want to give so much to his son. But but the son won't agree, he said. So I can see where he's coming from, and that he's a very loving father and husband. He just said he cannot deal with the son. So what to do? Yeah. Yeah. No, can do investments. I'm not talking for myself. I got no investment. Because you look at me. Don't have. Okay. They cannot do the non-halal investment lah. Yeah. You can make some of them, they do a deed of gift lah. They give their investments to their wife or something. Yeah.
Something about nomination of beneficiary life insurance policy.
I think they're all more than qualified to help me out here, right? Okay, go ahead. Let me.
Because we don't give anybody a Muslim religion, so I'm not sure if there is anything that we need to know.
No, just say what's the general law first. Then I will chip in on the Muslim part. Just chip in. What is the law in Singapore when you nominate in life insurance?
What about if I give more to my daughter? Is it possible?
Yeah. Because, okay, now I explain the Muslim law angle. Okay? Because I left it out. I thought too much to handle today. But again, inside the fatwa book, there is a history of the fatwa or nomination. Now, a bit of background. For those of you who remember, in 2010, there was an amendment to the Insurance Act, and it was with regard to revocable nominations. And it had a line that says that revocable nominations not applicable to Muslims. You remember, you're nodding your head. Okay, there was such a line. Why did the Insurance Act, right, reflect that line? Because they followed the existing fatwa at that time, which did not recognize that as a gift, as a nomination. And it said that the nominee only holds as a trustee. So then you must still follow the Faraid. So that's why the Insurance Act in 2010 said that the revocable insurance does not apply to Muslims. Then guess what happened? The fatwa was changed 1 year later in 2011 to say that revocable nominations is a form of a hibah, a gift. So it is valid. But now you have a problem because your Insurance Act was amended in 2010 to say revocable nominations not for Muslims. And they followed the old fatwa. But 2011, MUIS comes up with a fatwa, revocable nominations are valid. You know what's the problem actually? Because laws take years to change. So they took like 5-6 years to change a law, and it became law in 2010. Then fatwa also, on the other side, also go and change the fatwa. And then 1 year later, you get 2 different positions, right, on this. Very confusing. Insurance agents at that time were confused because they told their clients, you cannot make a revocable nomination because Insurance Act says you cannot. But they know that the Insurance Act was copying the fatwa. But now the new fatwa says you can. Confusing, right? What would you do? Don't buy insurance, I mean, for like 5 years, okay? Or don't do anything. But yes, I don't die. Okay, good point. Okay, so what happened was at the next round of amendments, and it was only in 2017, they re-amended the Insurance Act and they removed that part. So now there is no prohibition for Muslims to make revocable nominations for insurance. Okay, so that's why I mean the fatwa also changes over time. So now the position is reconciled. Okay, Muslims and non-Muslims both can. But in 2010 to 2017, very confusing for insurance agents. Very confusing. Actually, this now that the fatwa is retrospective lah. So the argument will be it will be still be valid. Okay, but okay, I tell you why fatwa keep changing, and I'm going to be brutally honest here. Okay, a lot of the old fatwa were made by MUIS without the benefit of the industry players. Okay, so you have housing. Okay, you have CPF, you have what insurance, but it was a group of, with all due respect, very elderly Islamic scholars sitting in a room and just looking at the Muslim law text, right? And if they cannot find it in the text, they just say it doesn't exist. That's what the problem is, joint tenancy. But why are a lot of the fatwa now being changed in the last 10 years? Because MUIS now, they have formed panels of experts. So when it came to CPF, they actually consulted the CPF board people now, right? And all the insurance, they consulted all the insurance industry players. And they had all these closed door sessions, typical Singapore style, consultations and all. So again, with joint tenancy, they met with people in the property sector, okay? And I will share this with you, okay? They even asked me to attend the fatwa committee meeting. It was very nerve-wracking for me. I entered the room in MUIS, all these old gentlemen with beards and all, okay? All the head caps, everything. And then I had to do a PowerPoint presentation to them to explain to them the difference between a joint tenancy and tenancy in common. And that's why I know it's recorded, but with all due respect, that's when I realized actually they didn't know the difference. Okay, and that's why they say, oh, it doesn't exist. And then when you explain to them, and then we actually dissected the Court of Appeal judgment in Shafeeq's case to say that that actually it is not inconsistent with Muslim law. Then they also consulted many other players, not just me, many other players. And then before they released the fatwa, they actually had many consultations with even estate agents, developers, to explain that the law is going to be changed. So that's why you don't hear like in some countries when you change your fatwa, there's a lot of riot and people are angry. The Singapore way is now we bring in the experts. There's another book on fatwa. It's all on medical fatwa, and they bring with them the SAMSTEL experts, the biologists, all the even IVF experts to explain to them now. So we are in a better place now. Last time the fatwa very scary. Okay, so they will just come up and based on their small little group thing. So I'm quite heartened the direction. In the past, yes, but not in the last 30, 40 years. Yeah. And that's why I got the case about the Justice F.A. Chua in 1960s or 70s making that comment. But you cannot just look at the practice. I want to see hey, have a nice day. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Okay, we lose our foreign talent. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
No, it's not. It's okay. The court will say we look at the evidence. What is the evidence? And that's why I said to avoid fighting, right? Have it in written form, Okay. Yeah. In problem was in those old cases, it was not in written form. It was the one person going to court and say, but he's not a Muslim. Then how you? So now if it's in written form, there's be likely to be less challenges. Okay.
Sorry, it's not directly related.
Yeah.
But I'm very curious about about how the Muslim Council got around this issue about paying interest, because I know it's a big issue.
Okay. I think you're going to a concept where under strict Islamic finance, Muslim law, right? The concept of interest is that it is illegal. It is illegal. Okay. I don't want to misquote the Fatwa committee, but that was actually raised by some people. Then how do we accept the fact that our money actually can grow there? So they saw it more as an investment rather than interest per se, and that is it is they put it together with things like admin fee, right? How do you call it? And well, basically it's investment lah. They saw it more as investment rather than just interest per se.
Actually alerted me, I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Based on his understanding, he thinks that e-bills, for example, is not accepted for the Muslims.
E-bills what?
So you know the treasury bills that you buy.
Oh.
And I went to check online. It seems to be so, but I can't be sure if it's official stamp.
Okay, I'm sure the. Okay, you want to answer that?
Can I offer a solution for
Yeah.
Okay, so MUIS has some, I would say, religious leaders, right? Okay, who have addressed the topic of CPF interest, as well as perhaps e-bills, as well as the
bonds.
Yes, okay, the SSB, correct? Okay, so their opinions can be found online.
Can be found because I'm not sure which is the authoritative website. That's the problem.
Okay. I believe a good source and a person who usually speaks about all these kind of things, okay, would be Ustad Kamal Mukhtar. You can look for him for reference. Yeah, and you can direct, I believe, your clients to make their own decisions based on his opinions.
But in short, accepted. CPF accepted.
CPF, yes, he accepted it along with
SSB.
SSB, I believe he said acceptable. E-bills, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Thanks.
But you can search for clarification. Don't take my word
Okay.
for it.
Thanks. I need to write down
But
the name.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it sounds like who is an individual.
Yes, but
So
he is
the applies to across the board.
again, it's just an opinion. Okay, but people look to his opinion because he is a scholar in the Islamic finance field.
Okay, anyway, just to declare, just now I said I used the Sharia Consortium. He is a member. Yeah, is a Sharia Consortium is a group of 4 persons, and he's actually the number 1 member. Okay, so I know him personally. No. No, but no. The consortium always gives an opinion together. It's always a joint opinion. Yeah. Well, I use their opinion for my Islamic trust. Okay, because I say this very openly. I'm not a Muslim scholar, so I don't want to certify. But where I come in is that once the scholars say that this is not inconsistent with Muslim law, then my role is to then look at other laws of the land, because that one they don't have. They don't have that expertise. Then I will look at all the other laws of the land and see whether or not overall this one can stand up to challenge or not. Because actually that's what they want. They want that peace of mind. They want to know at night that they can sleep knowing that their brother or some relative will not challenge what they're doing. So
the name of the
Kamal, Kamal, Mukhtar. But actually all this, the part about the CPF interest is all actually in the covered by the fatwa already. They would have discussed all this already.
But it's interesting.
Yes.
Overcome some of this
Yeah.
traditional.
Hey, how much time do we have? Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So if one marriage was the one marriage not, then what happens to them? Do they have a choice?
Okay. Well, if you answer from a Muslim law perspective, right? Then okay, how do I say this? From a Muslim law angle, the marriage is not a valid marriage. The Muslim marrying a non-Muslim is not a valid marriage. Okay, so the one argument is that it follows the father, but the irony is that in a relationship between a man and a woman, right, that is not married under Muslim law, the inheritance rights only falls between the mother and the child, not the father and the child. So the father actually has no rights over the child. So the argument would then be it should follow the mother. So this is the complicated part. Okay, that's why sometimes is when we have a situation where Muslim marry non-Muslim, they really come out even a deed of marital agreement, no, on how to raise the children. What is the religion that? So I've seen documents being done where they agree in a situation Muslim and non-Muslim, the child shall be raised as a Muslim. Okay, and then what happens is that one of the parties say, no, I don't want the child to be a Muslim anymore, and they actually go to court, no? and try to get a judge to rule on whether the child should be a Muslim or not. Okay, let me ask you, okay, how do you think the judge in Singapore handles such situations? No, besides that, very good. That is the Singapore way. The Singapore way will be the court at the end of the day, we don't interfere. This is too personal. So what they do is this. They ask for what has been the status quo? How has the last few years been? So if the child has always been doing dual religion, right? Friday go to the mosque, Sunday go to the church. You know what the court will say? Neither one of you should stop the other. But if the child has only been going to the church, never been to the mosque, then the court will also say, I will make no order, just let the status quo remain. And then they will put, and the child to decide when the child reaches the majority age. That is the Singapore way. Because at the end of the day, no judge dares to make a decision on this. It is so personal. We are not talking about Malaysia, it's different. Huh? You know the outcome in Malaysia already. Okay, you know already, no need for me to say. But in Singapore, it's different. The judges are very mindful that this is a secular country. Yeah. But that's not to say that they don't think that the religion of the child is important. So when you have adoption of the children, and the courts are very careful, no? If the let's say it's a Muslim couple wanting to adopt a non-Muslim child, and vice versa lah. A non-Muslim couple, they want to adopt a Muslim child. Our courts are very careful. They will ask MSF to investigate, come out with reports, whether is this for the benefit of the child or not. Because they know there will be a problem when the child grows up later. The child is going to say, hey, actually, I'm actually a non-Muslim, but why is it that I was adopted by a Muslim family? And the other way around. So that's why in Singapore, we have this unique situation whereby you notice even in adoption, right? Usually the Muslim couple adopt a Muslim child. But there are cases they adopt a non-Muslim child. If, let's say, the child is really an orphan, then it's a different situation. Yeah. Mm. 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 Okay, this is where it gets very sensitive because it logically, right, I would assume that the non-Muslim couple will not raise the child as a Muslim child, right? Yeah, so it's unlikely that, therefore, yeah.
They allow, I mean,
I see.
From young, they already want you are adult.
Yeah.
You have siblings.
Okay, so the law is actually this. She actually is still possibly, right, able to inherit from her natural parents. Because that relationship, right, under Muslim law is never cut off. It's never cut off. But in the law of the land, it is cut off. Which is very confusing. Okay, I give an example and you can back me up on this. Is this a Muslim girl, right, is adopted by other people. Okay, anyone, but anyone. Do you know that at the time of her marriage, okay, she actually has to be given away by her biological father, even though the father has given her up at birth or at a young age, not by the adoptive father. So at the ROMM, when she applies to marry a man, right, and they find out that she's actually adopted, they will ask her to go and find your natural father. Yes. Okay, of course lah. Some some they advertise, but a bit insensitive in the whole world, you know, right? But sometimes what they do is you just do what you can. We give you 3 months. If after 3 months you cannot find your natural father, then the ROMM officer known as the Qadi, he will play the role of the guardian, the wali. Yes, substitute. He will come in the place of the natural father. But they have to go through that process where they need to give her a certain time to find the natural father. Yeah. That's the problem. Under Muslim law, there's no such thing as adoption. Seriously. The closest word is guardianship, not adoption. So that's why, you know, in the civil laws, right, grandparents also can actually adopt your grandchildren, no? Okay, but we had a case under Muslim law, because it was Muslim, the judge refused to do it because the judge actually got a fatwa from MUIS, which says that actually the grandparents cannot adopt the grandchildren. So they said, we suggest you just do a guardianship order instead. Don't do an adoption order. No, it doesn't exist also. So no, it's not joking. We had a very sad case where the son had walked out of the house for like 20 over years, right? And then the other people look after the father. When the father passed away, that boy came back and he got the lion's share of the estate. 20 over years, never see the old man, no? And then all the uncles and everybody tried to persuade him, no, you should give your share more to your, no, this is my, this is my right. This is Muslim law, you see? Down there, they play that game. What to do? So that is sometimes how it can be a bit unfair. Hmm.
So in the interest
Oh,
of time,
yeah, sure. Okay, yes. Oh. Huh? Eh? Oh, I'm not prepared for this. Okay. No, this one I'm not comfortable. Because, especially because it's record. No, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm not wrong. I think the Law Society does not allow a referral fee, no. The number 2. It does not allow. So that's why, what you expect me to answer to number 2? I have to follow the law. I have to follow. Law Society does not allow me to have any referral fee. Okay, but number 1, you can find my contact number over Google, over LinkedIn, over everywhere. Even the last slide just now. Number 3, not an issue if the client allows. Okay, that one sometimes can be sensitive because sometimes they come with boyfriend, they come with so and so, and then I always have to ask. But usually they don't come with, they don't tell you who they come with. Everything is my cousin. This is my cousin. Don't know how many cousins. So actually you know lah, is the boyfriend lah. Yeah. Okay. The last one actually it depends on the complexity lah. Because we have the vanilla type, the very straightforward type. But then increasingly we have the non-Muslim and Muslim. So very hard to answer number 4 lah. You talk to me privately lah, then I tell you. Very hard to, especially being recorded. Very hard to, very hard to answer. Usually I put it together with a will because it's very odd for you to do a deed of family arrangement on its own. So I always tell them you do a will because then you appoint the executor and everything, right? And then you refer to the deed of family arrangement. So they come together. We bundle it up together lah. Can. That one no issue. That one usually got lah. But if it's always like 1 hour long, then I realize I got no time to do my other work, no. The whole day is like eight free consultation, gone. Then all my other clients chase me, so sometimes we control the time also lah. But sometimes I feel there is a need. The first meeting is so important to understand. Because that's why I don't do phone consultation, no. Anything more than 2 minutes or 1 minute, I say come to office. No, because on the phone you never get the full story. You never. But I was telling you just now, right? I get calls from mothers who tell me, hey, my daughter wants to marry a Muslim guy. And then she goes on a long story. I say, wait. You bring her to the office. Let us talk easier. Because we don't know. But quite sweet. That day they came. And my first question is, how do you all meet? Then I realized, maybe I'll touch in my age group. A lot of people meet online. Yeah, it's so out of touch, right? Our time don't have online meeting. Yeah. We can talk something else.
Can still be.
Oh, yes. No issue. In fact, I actually emphasize, I actually put that in an exam question, no? For the Part B lawyers at the Singapore bar, right? One of the questions I set them purposely was that, who can be an executor and trustee of a Muslim will? And then I purposely put must be a Muslim, this and that. Then after that, a lot of people actually tick the first one was must be a Muslim. I said wrong, because it can be a company. And then I had to explain to the students the answer. Then they say basket trick question. I say, so this is yeah. Deed of family arrangement. No need at the same time, because I know a lot of people. Some are traveling, this and that. Yeah, no need. It's not like a will, where the person must sign in the presence of the two witnesses. Yes. You can do it at different time. You can do. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So let's release everybody. Hey, but oh.
We just have a small forgot of it.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, but this one my enemy, no. Your baju lah, your shirt. Oh, thank you. Arsenal lah.
Very
Okay.
good talk.
Thank you.